Hello everyone and welcome to the first Cleantech Innovation Day in Lebanon. Your Excellency Ambassador Hans-Peter van der Woude, we thank you and the Kingdom of the Netherlands for your continuous and exceptional support and commitment. For the past 2 years, we've been initiating and celebrating innovation in the agri-food sector through the Agri-Food Innovation Days. And here we are this year, despite the global pandemic and the tragic events Lebanon is facing, still finding ways to innovate and set a strong infrastructure for our local and regional entrepreneurs. Together, we have started a nationwide agri-tech movement, and we aim to repeat this success within the clean tech industry. Nowadays, clean technologies are taking center stage in creating smarter and more sustainable ways of living in the face of quick evolving environmental changes. Lebanon specifically is facing aggravating challenges in managing natural resources in the face of climate change, especially with energy, waste, water, transportation, and clean tech and agriculture. Through the ACT Smart Innovation Hub initiative, an initiative co-founded with the Embassy of the Netherlands and aiming at strengthening business and job creation in both the agri-food and clean tech sectors in Lebanon, Berytech is catalyzing clean tech innovations through activities and programs, allowing clean tech entrepreneurs to grow their startups from ideas to scalable businesses through the Clean Energy Accelerator program, and supporting the creating of work groups to lobby for a better enabling innovation and investment landscape, proposing policy reforms and coordination structures that last beyond the lifetime of the initiative. Today, you will have the chance to connect and interact with visionaries, industry leaders, experts, professionals, researchers, investors, and seasoned entrepreneurs to learn about the most exciting clean tech innovations and learn about the evolution of the clean tech sector, specifically in Lebanon, to come up with new policies to push the sector onward. We will be sharing the findings of a year-long initiative where new like-minded institutions have been brought on board to support the process of ecosystem development, hosting working groups on waste, energy and water, as well as developing a paper on sustainable agriculture implemented by the Issam Fares Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs of the American University of Beirut. These findings aim to push for the right enabling environment for innovation and growth in the clean tech sector. Berytech has been working hard with the entrepreneurs enrolled in our Clean Energy Accelerator program. Today, you will be able to watch the 8 startups who took the challenge, rolled up their sleeves, and dived deep into the creation of efficient solutions for the clean energy challenges our era is facing. These young men and women set the example and represent the culture and beliefs we abide by. Despite all the misfortunes we faced here in Lebanon, we did not and will not let go nor lose faith. We have hope in the never-ending potential of our communities and will keep driving the ecosystem forward. We believe our startups can have a strong impact in the clean tech space, creating new opportunities in Lebanon as well as the region. Thank you all for tuning with us. I hope you enjoy the next few hours in the activities we have planned for you. Keep safe.
Thank you, Mr. Shamas, for your inspiring words. At Berytech, we are taking challenges in energy, solid waste management, water and wastewater management, transportation and agriculture, and transforming them into opportunities. Opportunities for innovation, growth, job creation, and hope for a better future. All of this would not have been possible without the renewed trust and the generous support of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Allow me to introduce His Excellency, Mr. Hans-Peter van der Woude. Your Excellency, we are eager to hear your words.
I'm very, very happy to be here. Although you obviously can't see me, I hope you can hear me well. And I'm honored to represent the Netherlands Embassy as a supporter of the agri-tech and clean energy programs. Nobody would be surprised that clean technology industry is booming worldwide. And it may have been started a bit hesitantly as an answer to growing climate change concern, but it has proven to be a business case in itself as well. Nowadays, there are more jobs created in clean energy than in the whole fossil-based industry. And let's be honest, as we are all sweating it out in our homes and offices as the fossil-based energy provision in Lebanon is crumbling all around us, the need for clean and renewable energy is a non-brainer. Cleantech industry has grown tremendously in the Netherlands in the past few years. There is a massive demand for clean and renewable energy to limit the usage of fossil fuels and other finite materials. The Netherlands is also the second country in Europe with the highest amounts of electric cars, and the Dutch are dedicated buyers of electric bicycles. Some topics the Netherlands is working on within the clean tech industry include e-transport, advanced water management and reusage of water, electric vehicles, including charging stations on the roads, as well as smart, clean and sustainable farming. In Lebanon's case, previous experience with the Agritech program has shown that this can be the starting point for a profitable business in Lebanon. Some of the many challenges in the country, such as the long-standing energy crisis, are a major reason why the private and public sectors need to look for creative and innovative solutions to further rely on renewable and sustainable energy resources. And of course, there are vested interests in the fossil sector blocking reform. And I think the challenge in Lebanon, worldwide, but especially in Lebanon, is to change those vested interests in stakeholders in sustainable change. Current dire economic circumstances show that a fresh take of entrepreneurial youth on many challenges, including the environmental one, is highly needed. Well before the current crisis situation, already a high unemployment rate existed, especially for young people. The labor market did and does not provide talented youth with enough opportunities to build their future in Lebanon. Far too many youth are employed below their graduation level, or let's say education is used as an export commodity for far too long in Lebanon. In the current circumstances, unemployment rates are even more alarming, reaching over 40% of the workforce and 60% of young people. And it's interesting to mention that the Dutch initiative was implemented in Beirut to apply the concept of electric cycling in Lebanon. The initiative is called Wave Bike, and so far their electric bicycles are fully booked, and even they have a waiting list for future bookings. But this shows the high potential of the clean tech sector in Lebanon, and should further encourage entrepreneurs and companies to look for ways to switch to clean and environmentally friendly solutions. And I think you, the participants, will be the linking pin in this. So let me finish with wishing you a great Clean Tech Innovation Day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your message and intervention. I am joined now by Rami Abu Jawde, Berytech's Deputy General Manager and ActSmart's Program Director. Rami is an expert in innovation entrepreneurship and a pioneer and a pillar in transforming the ecosystem for startups, scale-ups, MSMEs, locally and regionally. Rami?
Thank you, Lara. Well, it's exciting to be here today. It's our first Clean Tech Innovation Day. And as His Excellency, thank you for your message and Maroon's message. We are here because we believe in the change and we believe in Lebanon. At Berytech, we have been committed to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. We are keen on making transformation, and circular economy and green economy are core to the transformation of Lebanon. Because of this, we started with Agritech, we followed up with the Clean Energy program and the ActSmart Innovation program, but we are also diversifying in a number of other programs that are focused on this space. We are partnering up with people across the Mediterranean, North Shore and South Shore. We're working on a number of programs that are valorizing waste from agriculture, looking at green innovation and investment, looking at waste valorization, and so on. With what Lebanon is passing through these days, We believe that the future is in the hands of youth, is in the hands of innovators who would look at crisis and take from it the opportunities that would come from. With the devaluation of the currency, the value of waste has become of a much valuable position. The transportation modalities of Lebanon need to change. The circularity of products, the consumerism, and the look of sustainable future for Lebanon is very important. When you talk about our programs, when you talk about the entrepreneurs we want to support, we're looking at changes that will hit triple bottom line: an economical bottom line, and an impact, a social, and an environmental bottom line. With that, we believe that programs like the program we're currently presenting today, the Act Smart Innovation Hub, would be a base and a connector across all the programs that we have and the future programs that we have. This is also a call for everybody who is excited to be part of this change to join our revolution of change, to focus on that green and circular economy that we're looking for, to build with all the innovators, change makers, and stakeholders in our society that want to make Lebanon a place for innovation, a place where those innovations would shine to the rest of the world, a place for change for a better world. Thank you, Lara. I'm very excited to see the next steps. I'm very excited to learn more about our specialists talking on the panels, and definitely looking forward to hear our entrepreneurs pitch and answer questions about their innovation and where they're going.
Thank you, Rami, for such an inspirational message. During the day, you can expect to engage in a panel with visionaries, industry specialists, and experts, as well as showcase our 8 startups. Within Berytech, we have been working diligently to help make an impact within the clean tech sector through 2 pillars: the Clean Energy Accelerator and the think tanks. And with that, I would like to have you hold with us for a few seconds while our panelists are joined by Elias and Nicolas, our clean tech specialist, and his guests. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for an exciting discussion panel with the experts who led the think tanks project, along with ministry representatives, where we'll go over the outcomes and the policies recommendations concluded around this project. Allow me to welcome with us today our panelists. We have with us here Mr. Pierre El-Khouri. He's the General Director and the President of the Board of the Lebanese Center of Energy Innovation. Pierre has been with LCEC for more than 16 years, where he got involved in all activities related to sustainable energy and at the Ministry of Energy and Water. We have also Ms. Suzy Hwaye. She's the advisor at the Ministry of Energy and Water. Suzy is a pioneer in the water sector. She manages and coordinates the updates of the National Water Sector Strategy and the implementation of the reforms in the water sector. Mr. Bassam Sabbar, he's the head of Urban Environment Service at the Ministry of Environment. Bassam has more than 20 years of experience in the Ministry of Environment, where he became the focal point of many of the projects in the ministry. Dr. Mark Ayoub, an energy researcher and program coordinator at Issam Fares Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs. Also, we have Dr. George Garillos. He's the water consultant at Waterlution Canada and a researcher in water law at the University of Dundee in Scotland, UK. And last but not least, Ms. Nisreen Hojairi. She's the Director of Environment Division at Laseco Architects and Engineers, and the founding member and the Vice President of the International Solid Waste Association, Lebanon Chapter. I would like to thank you all again for joining us today. And without any further delays, I leave the floor now to Dr. Mark Ayoub for a quick overview about the project. Mark?
Yes, thank you so much, Liaz, and hi, everyone. I'm gonna do a brief overview about the project we have been doing and conducting with Berytech since more than 18 months now, about the clean tech potential in 3 sectors: water, energy, and solid waste. Before I just start, I would like first of all to thank Berytech team, Lies, Rami, and all the team for all their support, but also allow me to thank two key pillars of this project. Without them, those findings today wouldn't have been possible. First, the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises who have taken part in those working groups in very difficult and challenging times over the past year, and also public representatives from the several ministries, Mr. Pierre, Suzy, Mr. Bassam, and several others from other ministries who also were of great support in pushing towards new ideas, new, let's say, ways to overcome those challenges. So I'm going to share my screen for a quick introduction about the project. So I hope you're seeing my screen now.
Yes, we.
Okay, great. So I'm joined today with our two experts on solid waste and water, who are going also, Nisreen and George, who are going to share also some of the findings related to the sectors. This idea, the idea of this project, they started more, as I said, more than a year ago, early in 2020. When also the crisis also has started and the SMEs have started facing a lot of challenges and problems in sustaining their businesses. So we thought of bringing together with Berytech team a series of conducting a series of working groups and meetings to bring private representatives, but also the SMEs, and to discuss their problems, the potential opportunities. And this is what we're gonna try to showcase and highlight on today in our presentation. So a brief about the Cleantech. I think Rami has initiated the discussion around it, but clean technologies or Cleantech sector refers to any process, technology, product, or service that aim to improve and enhance environmental sustainability. We thought of reflecting on three main sectors, mainly under the Cleantech umbrella, which focuses also on renewable energy sources, water efficiency, new approaches for waste management and valorization, and other also methods and practices. And from kicking off from this definition, we decided to focus with Berytech team on the three sectors: energy, solid waste, and water. The goals of Cleantech are generally to develop technologies to protect the environment and to feed into the SDG goals and the climate change goals of the Paris Agreement, and also all the climate meetings, to repair the damage done to the environment and to conserve and preserve natural earth resources, be it water, energy, and also use the byproducts of some, for example, the waste management or the solid waste while preserving and the environment. So under this Act Smart project and Act Smart umbrella that Rami and Lies has introduced, we have been working with the Berytech through this approach, through this out-of-the-box approach, to strengthen the business advancement and job creation in the clean tech sectors in Lebanon. So we have looked, we started by looking at the three sectors separately, but we know with everything, with all the interlinkages between these sectors, we cannot look at those sectors in silos, but rather looking at the nexus or at the interlinkages between those sectors. The aim of this project under the Act Smart Innovation Hub was to establish three working groups, one on water, one on solid waste, and a third one on energy, and to produce three clean tech white papers, which are currently in progress and under review, and a fourth one related to the nexus approach and how to link or to look at the interlinkages between the three sectors to get together in Lebanon's clean tech sector. So we are targeting mainly through this project two communities. First is the policymakers and the key actors in the policymaking in the clean tech sectors. But a second community, which are the SMEs and the companies working in those sectors, because they need also some ways forward, some new out-of-the-box ideas and innovations to sustain, as I mentioned before, and to overcome this this crisis with the least cost possible. This is
Mark. I don't want to interrupt you, but your slides are not moving. We're still seeing the first slide.
I'm moving with those, so I'm not sure.
Can you? Yeah.
I will stop sharing and share again.
Share again, yeah.
وينك جواد؟ خليت؟ طيب يلا لا قدرت تشيل الفيديو.
Now?
Yes, now we're seeing slide 3.
Yes, okay. So this is what I was talking about, the Cleantech working groups in the 3 sectors, the 2 communities, the policymakers and the SMEs. This is now a quick timeline of the project since its start. So we started by mapping early in 2020. We started by mapping the SMEs working in the 3 sectors. We mapped around 700 SMEs in the 3 sectors with all their business types, their contact numbers, and we have shared with all of those an outreach survey and for them to fill it in, just to know which companies are still working in Lebanon's market, how many companies have left working to abroad, to a regional outlook, or even international. We have received around 160 respondents, 160 SMEs who have responded to our survey. Then we have conducted a data analysis and SME selection among those 160 SMEs, from which we have formed working groups in the 3 sectors, one in water, one in solid waste, and another in energy. And in each working group, we had around 15 to 20 SMEs participating in those working groups. So the first one was completed in September 2020. The second working group was completed in November 2020. And we are in the process currently, as I mentioned, in the development and the write-up of the white papers, which are expected hopefully around September this year. And before that, during the same period, we are aiming to host a dissemination event or a results dissemination event with the SMEs and also with the public representative from the several ministries and international organizations to hear their insights and hear their thoughts about the recommendations. So when we thought about this project, we had one key aspect of it was the enabling environment and how to enable the environment for business growth and innovation in those sectors. During our research, we identified 3 key pillars for enabling the environment for SMEs. Mainly political pillar, an economic pillar, and also social and environmental pillar. So quickly under the political pillar, we usually looked at the several indicators or sub-indicators under each pillar on how to process or how we look at the peace and political stability in the country in specific, which is Lebanon currently, the governance system in the country, the social dialogue among several industries, as well as the human rights and some international labor standards. As for the economical pillar, here we look at the macroeconomic policies and good management of the economy, the available infrastructure for those SMEs or for those businesses to grow, the technological capabilities, as well as the enabling policy and regulatory framework. On the social and environmental aspect, our research or our study looks at several sub-indicators, but mainly the entrepreneurial culture within the community under study, the education, training, and even social justice and social protection. So where do we stand? And this is where we started before diving into the discussions with the SMEs and in the working group. We have seen where does Lebanon stand compared to several regions and to several countries in the region and we looked at the regulatory performance of the country across different indicators, which are highlighted in this table. So mainly, we have looked at the ease of doing business in Lebanon, starting a business, protecting minority investors, which are the SMEs, paying taxes, and resolving insolvency. And here we could see, like on the table, if I'm not maybe go into the details of each, but we can see that we have we can compare Lebanon first to other countries, but also to the regional average in the MENA region. So we rank 142 over 190 countries in the ease of doing business, 146 over 190 in starting a business or starting up a business, 140 over 190 in protecting minority investors, 113 over 190 in paying taxes, and 151 over 190 in resolving insolvency. And here the score is a score over 100. So you can see in red in the first column Lebanon's score, and in the last column the regional average and our ranking to the right of this slide. So that shows that we are in a challenging position, we are in a challenging situation, and this was a 2019 study or 2019 numbers. So we can assume and estimate that those numbers or those indicators are maybe way challenging in the current economic situation and with everything happening in the several sectors. And this pushed us to work more and to collaborate more with all the involved institutions, public and private, to try and find solutions to sustain those businesses and get out of it with innovative solutions. So as I said, this is a brief on the three sectors, and I will stop there just to give the floor to the experts to share some of the findings. So as I said, we have mapped around 700 SMEs over the past year. 160 SMEs responded and participated in the survey, and we have around 50 of those in the three sectors who took part of the three working groups. So solid waste, we have around 33 SMEs who responded. In energy, 79 SMEs, and water, 48 SMEs. And those are just the numbers, just to tell everyone and to highlight that the results the experts will show in few minutes are the results of the discussions with those SMEs who responded to the questionnaires and took part of this working group. So we have asked them, just before moving to the end, we have asked the SMEs first in the first working group to identify the challenges, not only within the crisis, the economic crisis, but also in general, like looking ahead for the coming decade. And in the second working group, in participation with public representatives and international organizations, we looked at potential opportunities and how we could draw a certain path for potential solutions and low-cost solutions. So the way forward for the coming 2 months is just to finalize the papers, as I said, that are currently in the final stage of review, and to conduct one-to-one meetings with SMEs and non-SMEs, including public representatives, to discuss the way forward at the policy level, but also at the technical level with SMEs, and to do this result and dissemination outreach, to hear the views, comments, and remarks on the paper before publication. So this is it just from my end on the overview. I will stop here, and maybe we can discuss later any question in the Q&A. So now I think, Elias, we'll start with the solid waste results, and then energy, and then water.
Thank you, Mark, for this insightful presentation. It was indeed like a very exciting study that we were able to work on it together, and definitely we'll get into more details with our experts today. With that, I believe Nisreen will tell us more about this study and its outcomes for the waste sector. Nisreen?
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and I'm very excited to be here today, and very excited to be part of the team working on this project. So let me share my screen. I hope I'll be able to do that because I'm not very familiar with this platform. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we're able to see.
And if I move it, you can see it moving, right? If I move the file.
Yes, we're
okay, excellent. Okay. As Mark said, the white paper we've been working on aimed mainly at assessing the business landscape environment governing the solid waste management sector in Lebanon, with a focus on SMEs, their characterization in terms of financial capacity, their size, their innovation capacity, the challenges they are facing, the obstacles hindering innovation in the field, etc. And the ultimate purpose was mainly to put forward a set of to define the challenges they are facing, and to put forward some kind of recommendations for decision and policymakers to improve the performance in the solid waste management sector, and to encourage innovations and the integration of innovative clean technologies within the solid waste management system in Lebanon. So before going through the outcome of the paper, I'll just start by redefining again what we mean by clean tech and how is that integrated when we talk about the solid waste management sector and where they are integrated. So clean technology, as defined by Mark, is not only technologies, it's any process, technology, product, or service that reduces the environmental impacts of a certain operation through the efficient use of energy and the sustainable exploitation of resources while integrating environmental protection measures. In the sector of waste management, clean technology could be integrated anywhere across the life cycle of a certain waste stream, starting from the source of generation of the waste, where we have a lot of clean tech related to waste handling activities like source separation, source processing, during the collection of the waste, during the processing and treatment and recycling, with all types of processing and treatment that we have, from physical, mechanical processes, chemical processes, thermal conversion like incineration, gasification. These are only examples. I'm sure you're all familiar with these. Biological treatment like anaerobic digestion, composting, recycling like RDF, etc. And definitely there are clean tech that are related to the ultimate disposal at the sanitary landfill sites to deal with all the environmental impacts resulting from landfilling, like the lining systems, the gas collection management system, the restoration of the site after closure, etc. So these are only few examples of the different types of clean tech that fall and could be integrated within the waste management sector. So what we've done as part of the project, as Mark said, we've done some kind of a mapping for the existing SMEs that are working in the field of solid waste management sector. So the mapping was done in the form of questionnaires that were sent to these SMEs, followed up by individual calls with these SMEs to make sure that we got the necessary results and the answers to the questions we were asking. We've done a lot of effort to make sure that the pool of SMEs is sufficiently diversified. And as you can see here, the mapped SMEs were really diversified in terms of the business types. They cover almost all the types of businesses, from consultancy firms to contractors, suppliers, technology providers, industry providers, operators, etc. And most of the SMEs were they were mainly located in the cities and mainly in Beirut and Mount Lebanon. As you see, more than 60% of the SMEs were based there. And in terms of their areas of activities, they covered almost the whole life cycle of a typical project, from waste collection, processing and treatment and recycling, landfilling. And for the types of waste streams they covered, they were also diversified. They dealt with municipal waste, industrial waste, medical waste, food waste, and wood. So what we've done next after mapping these SMEs was inviting them to participate in workshops that were organized back in August and December 2020. The main target of these workshops was to identify the challenges hindering innovation in the clean tech sector, specifically for the solid waste management field. And during these workshops, we've identified the priority challenges. And for those of you who were involved in these workshops, it was really very hard for the solid waste management sector to separate the challenges related to the hindering the overall sector from those hindering innovation in the sector. And I think this is quite normal because of the problems we're facing in the solid waste management sector in comparison to other sectors. So the identified challenges were as follows. The main challenge was the absence of an approved and implemented integrated and sustainable waste management strategy that includes all components of a sustainable system. When we talk sustainable system, we mean everything from laws, legislations, the necessary governance system, the cost recovery mechanism, the inclusivity factor, whereby everybody who's involved in the sector, from the generator to the operator to the contractor, are involved. The resources recovery, respecting the hierarchy of waste management, etc. Integrating the absence of a source separation scheme was a major challenge, because this is at the moment a bottleneck that is affecting the efficiency of all the processes and the technological innovations in the sector. As you know, at the moment in Lebanon, we have a lot of facilities. The operation and the efficiency of these facilities are really, the efficiency is really hindered by the absence of a source separation scheme. And the efficiency and the innovation in the field are also hindered by the absence of stringent standards, because the more stringent standards you have, the higher the stimulus for innovations in the field. And the second challenge that was identified was the access to financial resources and the availability of financial resources for both at the level of the sector and at the level of innovation in the sector. The third identified challenge was the scarcity of technical capabilities and technical resources, and the absence of the necessary infrastructure for research and development, which is kind of the backbone for any innovation in the sector. The absence of policies that stimulate and encourage innovation was also another challenge that was identified. The lengthy and stringent bureaucratic procedures, especially when it comes to approving a new technology or to approving funding for a new technology, etc. This is something that takes a lot of time, and it also applies at the level of the overall sector. When a strategy is put forward, it takes sometimes years to have it approved and implemented. And the last challenge that was identified was the lack of networking. And when we talk about networking, we mean the networking between the startups and the such stakeholders as investors, research institutes, universities, industries, business partners, etc., which are also required to provide the enabling environment for developing these startups. So after identifying the challenges, what we've done was carrying out kind of a benchmarking study to see how these challenges are dealt with in countries where they have an enabling ecosystem that encourages, supports, and promotes innovation in clean technologies. And we ended up by recommendations for decision and policymakers. These are highlighted here in this table. And to respond to the challenge related to the National Waste Management Strategy, the recommendation of the paper was to endorse and implement the national strategy that was set by the Minister of Environment over the past 2 years, after amending it to address some specific gaps, like the integration of a sustainable cost recovery mechanism within the strategy, the consideration of the economy of scale when sizing some of the waste management facilities, which is one of the identified gaps in the strategy, the amendments of the targets to make them more realistic, and the integration of incentives for innovation in the clean tech in the sector. Together with the endorsement of this strategy, it was also recommended as part of the recommendation of the paper to enforce the existing standards that we have at the moment by the Minister of Environment, and to establish clear classification criteria for SMEs. Because at the moment, not everybody who's working in the field of waste management has the necessary credibility or technical capability to do so. So it's very important to classify these SMEs to enhance the credibility and ensure good quality of services that are in compliance with the local standards and with the international standards when the local ones are missing. The third recommendation, which responds to the challenge related to the scarcity of technical capabilities and facilities for research and development, we recommended to introduce this one was to respond to encouraging and allowing an enabling environment for innovation, was to introduce a governmental entity that would foster and promote clean tech. And this entity, the main role of this entity would be specifically dedicated to the creation of an enabling environment that fosters and encourages innovation in clean tech sector. To give an example of similar governmental entities worldwide, in Canada, for instance, they have a ministry called the Ministry of Innovation, which is specifically dedicated to promoting innovation in clean technology. In Finland, they have a clean tech board that is headed and managed directly by the Prime Minister of the government. So it's very important that innovation be supported at the level of the government. We also recommended to create a scientific platform for SMEs working in the clean tech sector for them to get advice from a team of experts from across the government. This could include experts from universities, experts from consultancy firms, experts from industries, etc. We also recommended to find alternative solutions and shortcuts to avoid the delays and the bureaucratic procedures in getting approvals for new technology. And this could be done through the same entity, governmental entity, that is created to promote sustainability. And we also recommended to respond to the challenge related to the availability of financial means. And here we had two recommendations. One recommendation is at the level of the sector, whereby the strategy recommended by the Minister of Environment endorses a cost recovery scheme that would ensure the financial sustainability of the proposed systems, and that would pave the way for the decentralization of waste management services, and that would allow municipalities to manage their own waste. And at the level of innovation, we recommended to identify and implement alternative financial schemes to fund innovation for SMEs in the clean tech sector. And we have identified in the paper the time needed for each of these recommendations and the concerned stakeholders. And as you see, it's not one stakeholder who is usually involved in coming up with policies or solution for the challenges of waste management sector. And that is, in brief, it's actually the summary of the paper. There are a lot of details that we did not mention in here, and you will have the chance to look at them during the one-to-one meetings we're planning and after the publication of the paper. Okay.
Thank you for presenting this. I'm not sure if you want to keep the sharing the screen, maybe zooming in on the proposed actions, and we'd like to hear. We have with us Bassam from the Ministry of Environment, so we'd like to hear his insights on what Nisreen have shared already with us now. Bassam?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. Very interesting platform, big names. So Nisreen, probably one of the also old officers like me, probably working on solid waste management, and she knows all the details and all the aspects of this sector. So I would not. I think she covered everything. I would like just to have a quick review about all what happened in the last 20-25 years in waste management. Now, after all what's happening in Lebanon during the last 2 years, probably it's about time to change our mentality regarding solid waste management. So, in my opinion, the old system is not working. It was never working in a good and sustainable way. We were always relying on political interference, and we had always lack of financial resources. I would suggest that probably we should start working on, identifying probably new ways for solid waste management. Mainly, we should try to change probably the institutional framework, the financial framework, the legal, everything. We need to have a new approach. Probably we should start by innovations, working with SMEs, with municipalities, with NGOs, try to find like a pilot project or let's say a new plan, and we try to adapt with our new situation. So this is, in my opinion, this is how it should be from now on. We have to change our mentality. We have to come up with new strategies, new plans and master plans. Probably we have to work on the financial system, the cost recovery, the operation and maintenance. This is the most important thing in order to have a successful and sustainable solid waste management plans. Otherwise, with the lack of money, and we cannot always rely on the Ministry of Finance and the National Treasury. So we have to consider finding new ways in order to sustain all these projects. This is what I have to say at the moment. The most important thing is, for me, in this new projects, is the financial model, taking into consideration the sustainability and the cost recovery system. And I think Nisreen has highlighted this in a very good way. So that's it from my part.
Thank you, Bassam. We count on you مثل ما عودنا to always be lobby with us these proposed action, and definitely we'll have many meetings, I believe, with all the experts and the stakeholders working on the project to really push forward and translate this recommendation into some action items.
Absolutely, yes. Sorry, I just want to add something because you have reminded me of something. Probably we should start working on a lot of decrees and laws, and as Nisreen mentioned, also the national strategy. Probably we need to involve we need to involve more all these people, these platforms, in order to have to create new ideas related to this sector. Absolutely. Sorry.
And also, I'm gonna just take this moment as well to thank you for all the support that you're providing, also for the startups that were enrolled in our first batch of the Clean Energy Accelerator, and looking forward for more collaboration with the ministry. Okay, before moving to our next section, which is the energy sector, I would like to share with the audience that there is a section to the right of your screen. Okay, so there's a section called Q&A on the right side of the window. You can go to this section and write down your questions, which we're gonna take at the end of this panel discussion, and hopefully you'll have enough time to get as much questions from your side as possible. With that, we're gonna go back to present for us. Yes, so we're able to see your screen, Mark. Let's tackle the energy sector side of the study.
Thank you, Elias. So within the same spirit of what Nisreen has presented, we have worked with the energy SMEs, or small and medium enterprises, the 79 SMEs who responded. So in this infographic, or a summary of the paper, we will try to highlight the main results or the main findings on the energy sector. So as Nisreen said, we looked at any process, of course, within clean tech, any process, technology, product, or service that tackles renewable energy sources and environmentally friendly methods and practices. So looking first at the macro view on what falls under clean tech in the energy sector, we have been able to identify three main pillars. First is clean energy. Second, energy efficiency, and third is energy storage. And under each pillar, we can see here the several technologies that are the concerned technologies involved under each pillar. For example, in clean energy, the several technologies we know: solar, wind, renewable fuels, even fuel cell and emerging technologies. Under energy efficiency, we can speak about smart grids, green buildings, LED lighting, smart appliances, semiconductors, and infrastructure. And under energy storage, we can speak about batteries, thermal storage, mechanical storage, hydrogen, and even ultracapacitors. So this view, or this macro view, has helped us when diving into zooming into the SMEs and the several business types or areas of activities the SMEs in Lebanon work on. So here in the second part, we can see that those 79 SMEs who took part of this mapping fall under only two pillars, which are clean energy and energy efficiency. So there are still maybe a lot of involvement in the energy storage component or pillar. So the SMEs that we have spoke to and mapped work on renewable energy, in solar water heaters businesses, and even as service providers. But also on the provision of smart metering appliances and looking or working into small smart grids or microgrids. Some of those do not work on this locally, but also have a regional exposure or regional experience, even if they have some of their work or have done some of the work here in Lebanon. Now, when looking at the business types or the several business types, so those SMEs or companies are involved in, we have realized that most of them work in the supply or provision of services at 21%, but also in the operation of projects and of solar project in the clean energy or energy efficiency in buildings. To a lesser extent, some of them do awareness and trainings on the renewable energies, and another part work in contracting or as developers in developing projects whenever possible and at the several regions. So as for the regional distribution, so those 79 SMEs were mainly focused or mainly in Beirut and Mount Lebanon area, the bigger chunk, and then followed by the south, Zahle, north Batroun and Tripoli, and then Nabatieh and Baalbek al-Hermon. So the same approach was followed in energy, in solid waste, and water was also followed in energy. So during those working groups and the first meetings, we have asked the companies and the SMEs to identify the several challenges they are facing. And then we have asked them to rank or prioritize those challenges in terms of most important ones or the most pressing challenges within the current situation. And here, this figure here or the infograph shows that the SMEs answered fell into the first, saying that the lack of training and certification in the energy sector is a bit challenging, is one of the top challenges they are facing. A major chunk of the discussions in the working group was around the competition or the absence of classification criteria, which is hindering a bit of the competition in the market. Lack of access to finance, which I think was across the three sectors and not only in the energy sector. Fourth challenge or priority challenge is the absence of essential primary materials. So all those business types or the business types that I've mentioned rely in the major part on imports of primary material. And here there was also some discussions with the concerned ministries and mainly the Ministry of Industry to think or innovate in some of out-of-the-box approaches in case we would like to import or try to set policies and regulations for importing first in terms of tax incentives for the import of primary material, or even think if any of those primary components can be manufactured locally. In addition to this challenge, SMEs have identified the bureaucracy within the public institutions as one key challenge. They mentioned a difficulty when working with government or getting permits or approvals for a specific project or a specific product they are trying to market. And this also allowed us to think and propose a series of low-cost actions within the short-term, medium-term, and long-term when it comes to enabling the environment for innovation in this sector. So I'm going to go through each one alone and try to emphasize on the series of or the set of ministries and institutions concerned. So the SMEs have called to update, or I know there is, and we have spoke also with the LCEC on this, that there is already an existing or an established maybe classification criteria for SMEs. So some of the SMEs have been calling maybe to relook at this criteria and to try, for example, for some companies that are entering without being known or without being also in the market previously, they are able to participate in some of the tenders or some of the projects. And here there was a call for a new classification criteria in the immediate to short term when it comes to SMEs in the energy sector. Second came that the alternative solutions and overcome bureaucratic delays or for bureaucratic delays. So how to overcome those challenges or this challenge. It's not only about the Ministry of Energy and Water, but also Ministry of Environment when it comes to the approval, when it comes to environmental approvals or permits, the Lebanon and ERI when it comes to the standards or specification of standards. And this could be within the between the short to medium term, and is not considered as being hard to implement, but rather and with medium ease of implementation of this low-cost action. On the primary material issue, as I mentioned, there was a call to have some exclusive permits on import of primary material. And here there is a big role for the Ministry of Industry, in addition to the Ministry of Finance, to be with the support, of course, of the LCEC and the advice of the LCEC on which material to include and what type of products to include in this. But this is something that the Ministry of Industry, throughout the working groups, they have mentioned and expressed their readiness to work on those issues within in the short term, the short to medium term, and this could be this could have a medium range of ease of implementation, and could be implemented based on the identified priorities in discussion with the SMEs, but also with the concerned ministries, and to overcome what the SMEs are facing in the current economic crisis. Of course, the fourth one is the alternative financial schemes and alternative financial getting funds to fund innovation. And here we thought and discussed with the SMEs, and they have spoke a lot about thinking of out-of-the-box approaches and new ways to fund those issues, because as we know, the central bank or the subsidized loan that used to give a bit of oxygen for those companies and for the sector at large are halted during this crisis, and we should be thinking about new ways to bring external funds for some specific areas of innovation, and to give or to open the floor to enable the environment for innovation in the energy and the renewable energy specifically. So there is a role, of course, here for the Ministry of Finance, the LCEC, the BDL could be and should be maybe concerned and involved in this, but of course as well the Ministry of Industry. And this could be in the medium medium to long term, when the macroeconomic also stability of the country, and when we have a sort of macroeconomic stability in the country at large. Two additional things that were mentioned, and first is the dedicated training and certifications programs in the Cleantech specifically, and this is an activity or a recommendation that could be within the medium to long term as well, but would need the support and the partnership maybe with international organization, with well-known institutions in the fields that are able to give those trainings and certification and open the floor for the staff within those SMEs. We know that the local SMEs have the technical capabilities to innovate, have the know-how within their teams, but would need maybe some of specific certifications or trainings on specific issues related to clean tech, not only to work within the same technologies they are working on, but also to move maybe, as I said, the storage clean tech sector remains untackled currently, but and entering or diving into this new clean tech pillar would need a lot of support, be it technical but also financial. A last thing was the collaboration and coordination between the SMEs and academia. And here I think all the universities and research institutes have a role to play on how to create a platform between those SMEs and the academic institutions to support on the R&D and to host maybe yearly or twice a year some meetings to follow up on the latest technologies and how could academia in their research support the SMEs in in innovation, in new ways to innovate, and in new technologies to support clean tech. And here also the LCC, as we know, is across all those and it has a key role to play in those actions, but also the Ministry of Environment when it comes to the standards. And we could identify also a role for Lebanon and the IRI, the Industrial Research Institute, in this regards. So this is it from my end in terms, of course, this is a summary of the whole paper. I would like to mention that those also were not only compared or let me say recommended. So we compared what the SMEs have recommended with the best standards or some other standards and other lessons learned from other countries in the region and in the world. And the paper will include some specific examples from other countries when it comes to those low-cost actions, be it technical or even financial, or research or on the R&D field. So I would be happy to discuss those or even to answer any question later on. Thanks, Elias.
Thank you, Mark. I think, Pierre, we're glad to have you again and with us. I know that you were involved in the working groups, and we've also done a few meetings to discuss some of these outcomes. So maybe like a few words from your end. What is your insights on this, and if you have any feedback or comments?
Yes, thank you, Elias, thank you, Mark, and thank you for the invitation to join you today. Some very quick comments. Probably it's good to start with the gloomy part of the story. Based on the numbers or the rankings, the World Bank rankings that Mark has presented, it's clear that Lebanon is not an easy country to do business in. So this is a fact. Yet, and as noted by Mr. Shammas in his opening note, Lebanese entrepreneurs have a high level of resilience, of adapting, of creating or changing challenges into opportunities. And this is a positive and shiny part of the story. So, and I've been looking at the number of participants today, and it's really impressive to see such a large number of participants today. And this is a sign that really Lebanese entrepreneurs have a high level of resilience. The two other gloomy parts have to do with the political framework and the economical framework. Usually the political framework is not encouraging good businesses in Lebanon. Add to this today, during at least since for the past 2 years, the economical framework is also challenging. However, and this is where the positive parts comes in, clean tech is emerging as a major solution to the current political and economical frameworks or challenges. So it's really important to note that clean tech technologies, and clean tech entrepreneurs will be part of the major solution to the energy crisis in Lebanon. And this is a positive message to all participants today. Please do invest, continue this path in terms of coming up with solutions for the for the energy sector, because the solution will be relying on clean tech technologies. Especially that, and it's also here important to note that the support of the international community in this regard is huge. And practically one good example, or one clear example, is the work being done by the Embassy of the Netherlands and by the Netherlands as a government, and definitely many other European countries are also supporting in this regard. So practically there is a wide range of opportunities for clean tech startups, and I think all the proposed law actions that Mark has presented are true. So many of them, or all of them, are true. There are definitely some nuances, some ideas to be clarified. As Mark has mentioned, there is a classification criteria, for example, for solar water heaters, for ESCOs, energy service companies, and for solar PV. Yet we always have this dilemma, whether you want to make the classification difficult, and this way you'll be like banning newcomers to join the group of companies, or to make it light in order to encourage the newcomers. So there's always this interaction on how to proceed. Typically, what we try to do, we try to have clear criteria to make sure that the market is moving in the right direction, and at the same time open a door for newcomers to join in, to have some trainings, to update their know-how, to have more know-how in the field, and then to join the rest of the group. So this is a very sensitive issue, but things are moving quite well in this part of the low-cost action. Regarding the training and the classification and the certification program, what I would like to say is that there's a huge role, and it's a pivotal role, for the Order of Engineers and Architects to lead in this regard, especially with the new president of the order, the new members, which are mostly, they come from the green part of the business, of the engineering business. Many of them were part of the Energy and Sustainability Committee at the Order of Engineer and Architect. So there is an opportunity to give a leading role, a pivotal role, for the Order of Engineers in order to lead in classification criteria, in dedicated trainings like certified training, and in certification programs. And LCEC is already in contact with the Order of Engineers and Architects, as well as Libnor and IRI, because both Libnor and IRI have also a good role to do here. Final few comments. In terms of financing, it's important to know that for the past 10 years, between 2010 and 2019, Central Bank of Lebanon has offered a huge support to green tech technologies by supporting more than 1,200 projects, 1,200 projects. Actual projects were supported by the central bank. Definitely, it's not the case anymore. So practically, because in the lack of incentives of financing, the alternative would be to focus of the Ministry of Energy and Water and its different ministries.
I believe we have lost Pierre. He's connecting. Pierre, we lost you for a few seconds.
Yes, my last 2 points here. I was talking about the need to focus on enforcement, on having new regulations in order to enforce the use of green tech technologies. I'll give you one example. Hopefully very soon the Higher Council for Urban Planning will issue an enforcement decree or decision in order to have mandatory installations of solar water heaters and heat pumps. So this is a new door opening for clean techs working in heat pump technology as well as solar water heaters. And to conclude, one last idea, let's focus on two terms, very important terms. One is solar revolution, and the second is hydrogen revolution. A lot of efforts need to be invested in storage capacity. Mark has mentioned this, specifically hydrogen. Lebanon needs to develop a hydrogen strategy. We're working on this with many international and European counterparts. And part of this strategy, we need a lot of clean tech startups that would lead and fill the gaps in order to move forward with the implementation of a hydrogen strategy. So hydrogen is the keyword for the next 10 decades. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't take a lot of time. Thanks, Elias. Thanks, everybody.
No, thank you, Pierre, for your intervention. I believe it's quite interesting as usual, and we'll definitely continue our collaboration moving forward. And as LCEC is a key partner, I believe, for the Smart Innovation Hub and for the Clean Energy Program specifically. So we'll definitely keep on coordinating together and push this forward. Thank you, Pierre. With that, before moving to our water experts, I would like also to remind all our audience, please, if you have any questions for the panelists, you can click on the Q&A tab on the right of the window and type in your question, and we'll make sure to pass the question to our panelists. With that, I believe we can go and start with George Garios, our water expert today, and to cover the outcomes of the study on the water sector. George, you're still on mute.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, I will. I'm selecting the file.
Or you can share your screen. Yeah.
I will.
And when you click on the share screen button, you have two options. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Can you see the?
Yes. It would be great if you can zoom in.
Yes, I will. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the panel. Thank you for the attendees. So I was responsible of working on the Cleantech Lebanon and on specifically on the water sector, as you have already heard from the two. You got a feel of how we did the work during a year until today. How we first did the mapping, and then how we contacted the SMEs and how they responded, and how we invited them to working groups, and how we got all the feedbacks and all the challenges, and how we categorized them, and how. So I will not go back to all of these how do you say, logistics and technicalities of the work that we did. I would just focus on the water sector. I'm trying to zoom in. It's not working.
If you want, I can share from my end, and
I think when I share the PDF file, I cannot zoom. So I would stop sharing.
Yes, and select the other option.
Yeah, you have to. Yes, can you hear me? I'm not able to share the screen.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let me know whenever you can see it. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so as was already explained, Cleantech refers to any process, technology, product, or service that tackles renewable energy sources, new approaches for recycling, and environmental friendly methods and practices. So here, before starting to talk about the water sector, the first question that should be asked: why we did this study? Why the need for a study on SMEs in the clean tech sector? And this is where what we have found that what is missing is the enabling environment to help startups become SME, small enterprises, and small enterprises become medium ones, and medium ones become larger ones. So a lot of things that are missing, and this is where what we did during the year, talking to those SMEs, talking to the public sector. We invited all the ministries concerned and some universities and some research centers to talk about what is missing here to have a better enabling environment for the water sector. So that's what was why we did the study first. So for the water sector, what falls under Cleantech in the water sector? So here we have a lot of different fields where we can work on monitoring, on forecast, on control, where we can work also on organic, nutrients, solid treatments, as well as on metal or organic removals. For instance, disinfection. This is a hot topic now with the global pandemic. Desalination as well as a hot topic with all the climate changes and the scarcity of water, especially in the Arab world. A lot of companies are working into desalination. We have also leak repair, pipe replacement, and innovation in detecting those repairs, for instance, and replacing those pipes that are most of the time buried. Reuse on the non-traditional sourcing, scaling and corrosion control, liquid and or liquid gas separations, and pumps and valves. So this is what falls under the clean tech in the water sector. Now, you already know that we did the mapping. We had around 26 SMEs in the water sector that replied to us and that responded to our questions and that we were able to map. And I will start with the regional distribution, and that's, I think, in my opinion, is a bad example of how all the companies and innovative companies, especially the small and medium enterprises, are located between Beirut and Matan areas, where we have more than 65% of those companies, and all the other regions, they barely have 2%. So it's either one or two companies there. So of course that's explains a lot of why all the companies are concentrated in Beirut. We can learn from the study how we can encourage people living in far areas to better engage in these types of clean tech technologies. Then during the mapping, we looked at the areas of activities. Okay, here you can see that a lot of activities are involved in the water, such as in drinking water. So in how to treat water and purify water in order to get drinking water, water testing, water treatment, of course, wastewater treatment and water treatment, water quality, water reuse, and wastewater treatment, as was already mentioned, water supply, irrigation, and management. Unfortunately, we have noticed during our mapping exercise that almost all the companies involved in water, all the small and medium enterprises working in water, are mostly engaging in the same activities. Like most of them, they either work in wastewater treatment or drinking water, so purification of water, and or leisure activities such as the swimming pools and everything. and very few are in fact working in irrigation or water supply, and that's also because it's a market-driven environment where all the market demand is there, is in pools, treating water, because a lot of regions in Lebanon, they don't have, they are not connected to the sewage network, and for drinking water, because let's say the potable drinking water, the piped water to the houses is barely drinkable in many regions. Then we looked at the business types of these companies, and also we found out that most of them are working in contracting. So and supply. Supplies means they sell products that they buy from abroad, and consultancy. So those are the three most common areas where those companies are working. Few of them are working in industry, unfortunately. In training, very few, and in operation and maintenance also. Design is part of consultancies and contracting. So it's a lot of them of those companies were mapped in these paths. Then when we did ask them about the challenges they are facing today in this environment and enabling environment, and when we asked them also to prioritize those challenges, we found out that the first and most pressing challenge is the governmental policies that are lacking to stimulate new enterprises and startups to follow innovative ideas and clean tech incentives. So we don't find, they say that they didn't find any support from there towards their innovation, and this is why very few of them are engaged in innovative activities. The second priority was the technical capabilities and facilities for R&Ds. So most of those companies that answered those questions said that they didn't have the money or the financing required to create R&D's facilities within their companies in order for them to innovate. So that was also a pressing challenge. Third, financial resource, linked to the second challenge. Fourth, lengthy bureaucratic procedures for approval of new technologies, such as things related to how if they create new technology, they need to register for it, and then they found a lot of difficulties in this area. 5, networking between SMEs and academia. They said that this was practically non-existent, and that is needed for them to be able to know about new technologies and everything that's happening new from the research centers and universities. 6, it was mentioned already in the other sectors, the clear and proper classification and the ranking criteria, and especially for the bidding with the governmental institutions. And finally, train the human capital in the water sector. So here they found that that was an important challenge, although it came 7, but they found out that a lot of new graduate people in Lebanon are not really specialized in the water sector. So they either have a degree in engineer or something else, and they need to train them internally. And most of the time, before the crisis in Lebanon, most of the time they were sending them abroad to get trained in the water sector. And that's today is practically impossible. Finally, the proposed low-cost actions. This is when we asked them to set up the actions from the ease of implementation from easy to hard, and the time frame from short term to long term. The proposed actions were, we had 12 actions. So here we have only the first 5 actions, and the most easiest and fastest one to do basically is to launch a national dialogue between the SMEs and non-SMEs by creating a platform between the Ministry of Energy and Water, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Energy, and representatives of those SMEs to engage in dialogues of how we can improve the sector, how we can set up, for instance, rankings, how we can set up bidding and TORs and things like that. So that's number one. Number two, establishing the National Council for Water. So this was voted by in the last water code that was voted in 2020, a year ago, but we didn't. The council was never implemented yet, and they believe that establishing this council could help advancing the environment for SMEs and non-SMEs in Lebanon. Third,
I think we have lost George. Susie, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, hi, Elias.
Yes. George, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm just finishing with the last.
Yeah, I'm going to share again the screen. And yeah, go ahead, George.
Yes, I was just ending with the last proposed low-cost action. So we have the classification criteria for SMEs, so that we can have a better transparency and for the SMEs and for working with governmental and non-governmental institutions. Alternative solutions for bureaucratic delays. That's one of the challenges that were proposed, that were raised. And finally, a partnership with academic institutions and research centers, also something that was called by the SMEs in order to be up to date to the latest technologies. Of course, there are much more actions, but here in this infographic, you only put the first 5 and most easiest and fastest actions to be implemented. Of course, next to each one, you can see the concerned institutions. Of course, we have the ministries, then we have research institutes such as LARI, we have the IRI, we have IDAL, which is an investment development authority of Lebanon, and finally the universities for the last action. So that's for it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening to this infographic. Of course, the paper will be published very soon, and you can have much more details about what we did, how we benchmarked what's happening in Lebanon with what's happening in the region, what's happening in Jordan specifically, and what's happening outside the region in Malaysia and in Estonia. To you, Elias. Thank you.
Thank you, George, for this quick presentation. Back to Susie. Susie, you were, I believe, you joined us in the working groups while we were meeting with the SMEs, and we've had also some multiple, I believe, discussions throughout this year. So I would like also to hear some quick insights on the outcomes that George has mentioned.
Yes. First, thank you for having me on this platform. Thank you for the work you are doing in Cleantech. And thanks for all the participants. I really appreciate seeing that many participants for this on this platform. So there are a lot of ideas that can be talked about, starting from the clean tech in the water sector, which subsectors are targeted by clean technology, what are the available, or what types of businesses work in, or what types of SMEs work in the water sector in Lebanon particularly? Do they really relate to clean tech or not? Do these SMEs reflect clean tech in Lebanon or not? Now, definitely the work that has been done is a very important work. And as you know, yes, I participated with you and we had a lot of discussions on this. The challenges are several, and difficult than what they were 2 years ago. We are operating in very stringent and tight situations and conditions. Today we cannot, we are in a survival mode. It's really difficult to talk about innovation and to talk about development. However, it is the only way out. If we, and in the water sector, you know that we have started the reforms, and we had started this since 2019. It's not new, but things have hindered us and have hindered the communication and the coordination that we had in mind, especially with the private sector. The private sector, be it SMEs, medium or large enterprises, need to be involved in the water sector, because the water establishments are not capable of operating and of managing the water sector alone. And they are not even financially capable. So there is a big need for innovation. There is a big need for technology. There is a need for the expertise present in the private sector and in the building of capacities that the private sector can provide to the public sector. So the need is big, and it's big in several subsectors, be it from, for example, detecting of leaks. This is one of the main things that we need to do in terms of infrastructure. This is technical, and it requires expertise, and it requires and it will save a lot of money for the water establishments. Water irrigation, water management, wastewater treatment, drinking water treatment, all of these are things that we need to innovate in. We tried in the strategy to accommodate all of this, but after having started this platform with you, Elias, and with AUB, the Issam Fares Institute, I think we should start thinking of how to have a dedicated action plan for clean technology in the water sector. And maybe this should be our next step, or one of the recommendations out of this paper and out of this platform, how to integrate in real terms and concrete terms clean technology in the water sector and in the national strategy that tackles water and wastewater as well as irrigation. As for the proposed low-cost actions, definitely it's something we have talked about previously, to launch this dialogue between SMEs, or let's say the private sector and the public sector, SMEs and the public sector. Public sector, I mean Ministry of Energy and water establishments. This is very important. And you know that we had agreed on doing this, and this is something easy that we can start as of immediately to do. Establishing the National Council for Water. Regarding this is something that was adopted in the Water Code of 2018, revised again in the Water Code of 2020. And we are awaiting for the executive decrees to be drafted and published, especially regarding this National Council for Water. The idea of a National Council for Water is very important if it is well implemented. The concerned institutions in this action is not only Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Agriculture, and Ministry of Environment. You have also the Prime Minister's office. You have several other ministries like the Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Tourism, Trade and Commerce, all of these other ministries, as well as Ministry of Interior. All of them are integrated in, or are included in, this National Council for Water. What's important in this National Council for Water is to really draw the economic strategy for the water sector, not only and allocate water in the different national sectors based on an economic and financial plan. this would be one of the most important responsibilities, let me say, or one of the most important recommendations that such a council can do. It's not the place to set a strategy for the water sector. It's a place to set the economic strategy for the water sector and the other sectors of Lebanon. Number 3, when you talk about the classification criteria for SMEs, I perfectly agree. Maybe it is a bit difficult, but it shouldn't be something that should take a lot of years. This is something that we should start immediately in changing. The criteria are a little bit old. They are vague. We don't know becomes ranked number 1 among other consultants. So I don't know if you're talking about the same classification criteria that we have at the ministry, because I don't see the Ministry of Energy and Water in the involved or in the concerned institutions. So it depends on what type of SMEs we're talking about. Anyways, it is something that should be looked at. LCWMC can be part of it, but LCWMC needs to be reactivated, and this is something that we have been advocating for with donors. And we are not, because of the financial crisis that we are in, we are not having donors interacting with us or being positive about this, about reactivating the LCWMC. But we will keep on working on this issue. But honestly, today we are just seeing how we can have a vision for the future. Alternative solutions for bureaucratic delays, I perfectly agree with you. It can be something related just to the Ministry of Energy and Water and the water establishments, and it can be something that can be that can touch on all the governmental institutions in Lebanon, transforming the governments or the ministries into e-government or e-ministries, as we have planned for the Ministry of Energy and Water. But these things take time in Lebanon. As for the last point, and I'm a little bit disappointed that you put this at the end, anyways, we have already partnered with a lot of academic institutions, and in the strategy and in the technical assistance water reforms project that we have started, we have an observatory for the academic institutions and the civil society, and we want this partnership to become more solid, and we want Yes, sorry, can you hear me now?
I think we've lost you, Susie, for
a few seconds. Yes, I was saying we need a lot of research in the water sector to advocate for innovation, to promote technology, to promote advancement in the water sector. So this is very quickly what I have on this. We can talk a lot more, but that's it. And the willingness is to have this convergence between SMEs, private sector, and the.
Yes, I believe we're losing Susie again. So I would like to thank Susie for her intervention, and definitely we're gonna. Sorry, Susie, we've lost you. So I was saying thank you for your intervention. And I believe we're gonna continue our collaboration together in order to push this forward and translate it into action items. So unfortunately, we're running out of time. I'm gonna go quickly and tackle some questions from the audience quickly. So regarding the PDFs that were presented, we're gonna publish them soon. So stay tuned. They're gonna be published along with the white papers. So stay tuned, and we're gonna publish them for sure. Regarding the question about the water supply, the water companies included. So keep in mind that this study was mainly focusing on SMEs, so small to medium enterprises. And as I believe Susie has replied, so these were the companies who have actually replied and had the will to participate in the study and in the working groups. So we're not saying that these are just the players that were there, but this is the sample of the SMEs that we were able to capture in the study, and they participated actively in the surveys and in the meetings that we have sent. More questions. Okay, so I believe one question about like who will be setting the criteria of approving, rejecting projects. And what is a project life cycle? We have worked on interesting waste to energy project and reached nowhere after losing 2 years and money. Who's setting the financial criteria? Is it kafalat? I'm not sure if Pierre, if this question is addressed to Pierre or to Bassam, because like it overlaps between both ministries. Pierre, you're still with us, or Bassam?
I'm here.
Yes, so if you, do you have any insights on projects related to waste to energy, and like who's setting like the criteria for approving and rejecting such projects?
Actually,
Bassam can answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you asking me the question?
Yeah, it's like it overlaps between you and Pierre, I believe. It's so if you can go, Bassam, that's fine.
Concerning the environmental part, probably Pierre will talk about the energy part. Normally, as Minister of Environment, we don't have any ban of any technology unless she's performing according to the national standards of emissions and wastewater. So, in my opinion, and knowing our situation now in Lebanon, and after the depreciation of the currency, probably it's difficult for us to have waste-to-energy plants in Lebanon, especially on a big scale. Of course, we have to work on this during this period, and once we will be able to contain issues like the monitoring of this energy plants or waste-to-energy plants, or probably in order to create a monitoring system, let's say, and to have the trust of the people who are monitoring these plants, we will be able to start thinking about waste to energy. But for the moment, and as Nisreen was saying at the beginning, now we have people have tendency to probably to reuse the waste or to minimize and to recycle the waste, since the value of this waste now is getting bigger comparing with the Lebanese currency. So in my opinion, we have to think about this, taking into consideration that, of course, probably in the future we will be able to have probably waste-to-energy plants, especially in the urban areas.
Thank you, Bassam. I would like to hear quickly from Pierre, like in a minute. Sorry, Nisreen, because like really we're running out of time. It's a long discussion, and I'm sure we can have maybe another round of meetings to discuss that. Just quickly, Pierre, if you have any insights on that, and then we have to close the session for
thank you.
the time being.
Very quickly, Elias, just to say that the trend at the Lebanese government is to have the waste management sector under the management of 3 entities: the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Interior and Municipalities, given that it has to deal in some ways with municipalities, and CDR, the Council for Development and Reconstruction. So these are the 3 entities that lead on the waste management sector. Whenever there's an electricity part as part of the waste management sector, so whenever we're dealing with waste to energy project, then EDL, under the leadership of the Ministry of Energy and Water, will have a role, and the role of EDL will be limited to two parts. One is where to connect the electricity from the waste to energy plant. This is one important aspect. And the second aspect, if the waste to energy plant is being done by the private sector, at what cost would EDL be buying the electricity from the waste to energy plant? This is in a very quick way. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre, for putting like the right frame for that question. And like I know we have lots of questions, and we have like maybe it's not that common to have these experts join in one panel and collaborating and discussing about the clean tech sectors in Lebanon. So hopefully we'll be able to have another round of such as this panel discussion. With this, we conclude our panel for today. Thank you again for all the panelists for this exciting discussion. Our next session will be starting at 4 p.m. We're going to have a break now. Note that on the platform, you'll find multiple virtual tables where you can join and start some discussions with any of the startups of the Clean Energy program batch 1. So this session is going to end now, and we'll be back at 4 p.m. sharp. Stay tuned. Thank you.